Imagine standing in a world where everything is white, endless, and silent. Silence so heavy, it presses against your thoughts. Welcome to Mr. Whisper's Official. Real stories reveal how nature can dismantle certainty, identity, and reason without warning. Tonight, we travel into the Arctic. 3 expeditions vanished beneath the ice, leaving fragments of evidence and unanswered questions. I am Dr. Rowan Hale, polar historian, joined by Lena Vorick, glaciologist, and Matteo Serrano, expedition medic specializing in cold exposure trauma. Together we reconstruct the final moments of explorers swallowed by permafrost. Using journals, forensic data, and preserved camp remains. Before we begin, ask yourself, how long could you endure absolute silence without losing your sense of reality? The Arctic does not rage or roar like storms elsewhere. Instead, it erases sound until your own heartbeat becomes unbearable noise. Many explorers describe the tundra as beautiful, but beauty without life can slowly distort perception and dismantle psychological stability. These stories are not legends or myths. They're documented disappearances, where evidence remains frozen exactly where terror unfolded. Listen closely, because what destroys people here is rarely the cold alone. It is the slow unraveling of the human mind. Our first case follows a solo Arctic trekker in 2024. Equipped with advanced navigation systems, satellite tracking, and biometric sensors. His digital trail remained perfectly stable until reaching a region known among researchers as the dead zone of navigational distortion. Lena explains shifting magnetic anomalies that interfere unpredictably with positioning technology, causing location drift without visible environmental change. His final recorded message described hearing faint cracking beneath the snow, though seismic readings showed no structural ice movement nearby. Matteo notes early hypothermia can heighten auditory sensitivity, amplifying subtle environmental sounds into perceived threats or voices. Hours later, his biometric feed showed elevated heart rate despite minimal physical exertion in stable atmospheric conditions. His final GPS signal repeated the same coordinates continuously, suggesting circular movement despite intentional forward navigation attempts. Rowan explains whiteout environments remove horizon lines, eliminating spatial orientation and inducing disorienting perceptual drift. The last visual transmission showed him staring into open tundra, whispering that something moved beneath the snow surface slowly. Search teams later found his camp intact, equipment powered, supplies untouched, yet footprints leading away vanished abruptly mid-stride. Lena believes unstable snow crust can collapse silently, swallowing weight without leaving visible surface disturbance. However, Matteo points out his thermal readings dropped gradually, not instantly, suggesting prolonged exposure rather than sudden entrapment. His journal ended with a single repeated phrase written across several pages. The silence is moving closer. No remains were recovered despite extensive scanning beneath the ice layers surrounding his final transmission zone. The Arctic did not resist him violently. It simply absorbed him without explanation. Our second investigation examines historical expedition remains where biological evidence reveals the devastating physical toll of extreme cold exposure. Matteo describes late-stage hypothermia, when cognitive confusion replaces fear and survival instincts deteriorate rapidly. One disturbing phenomenon frequently discovered at Arctic sites is paradoxical undressing, where victims remove clothing despite lethal temperatures. Lena explains nerve dysfunction creates burning heat sensations, convincing individuals they are overheating in freezing conditions. Rowan references recovered expedition remains, showing discarded garments neatly folded beside collapsed bodies frozen mid-movement. Forensic analysis revealed nutritional deficiencies, toxin accumulation, and neurological impairment contributing to behavioral disintegration. Evidence suggests crews abandoned supplies irrationally, walking into open whiteouts despite adequate shelter remaining functional behind them. Mateo states prolonged cold stress alters decision-making pathways, producing impulsive behavior inconsistent with survival training. Some remains displayed signs of disorientation so severe that individuals traveled directly against prevailing wind without protection. Lena emphasizes that whiteout eliminates visual depth, making sky and ground indistinguishable within a single featureless brightness. Rowan describes journal entries reporting that distance lost meaning entirely, as every direction appeared identical and endless. One recovered log described explorers walking toward what they believed was Camp Light, only to discover empty horizon repeatedly. The body fails slowly in Arctic cold, but the mind fractures long before physical collapse becomes unavoidable. Evidence reveals survival knowledge cannot compensate once perception itself becomes unreliable. The greatest threat is not freezing, it is believing you are safe while freezing continues unnoticed. Our third account follows a 1920s research team trapped for months after shifting ice sealed all viable evacuation routes. Lena explains seasonal darkness lasting weeks eliminates circadian rhythm stability, causing severe sleep disruption and cognitive decline. Their diary entries initially recorded routine scientific observations, then gradually shifted toward fragmented descriptions of unexplained sounds. Rowan notes multiple entries referencing footsteps circling tents despite no visible tracks surrounding the camp perimeter. Mateo explains sensory deprivation can produce auditory hallucinations when the brain compensates for prolonged environmental monotony. However, several explorers described hearing identical sounds simultaneously from different positions within the camp. Later entries mention shadow movement across snowfields during moonless conditions where visibility should have been impossible. Lena explains light scattering across suspended ice crystals can create false movement illusions across flat terrain. The team began documenting something they called the pressure presence, describing sudden heaviness in the air before each sound. Mateo connects this to barometric fluctuation sensations, which can produce anxiety responses and heightened threat perception. Yet the most disturbing discovery came when search parties found their abandoned camp years later, perfectly preserved. Equipment remained functional, food sealed, instruments calibrated, yet sleeping quarters appeared vacated simultaneously without signs of struggle. Her final diary entry ended mid-sentence, ink frozen before completion. No bodies were found within miles of the site despite thorough search operations. The tundra preserved their shelter, but not the people who occupied it. In 2025, researchers discovered a preserved ghost camp where artifacts remained untouched but arranged in unnatural symmetrical patterns. Lena observed tools aligned precisely along compass directions, despite no recorded intentional structural planning by the expedition members. Rowan discovered metal tins scratched with fragmented messages describing movement beneath the ice surface at night. Mateo analyzed preserved leather journals showing erratic handwriting pressure consistent with extreme stress and deteriorating motor coordination. Several entries describe the sensation of being watched from below rather than from surrounding terrain. Ground-penetrating scans revealed no subsurface structures, voids, or animal tunnels explaining perceived movement beneath the frozen ground. The camp appeared orderly, yet emotionally frantic evidence suggests escalating psychological distress immediately before abandonment. Nothing indicated forced evacuation, environmental destruction, or supply depletion. The stillness preserved everything except understanding. The Arctic kept the scene intact but erased the narrative. Modern search missions equipped with satellite imaging and thermal scanning still fail to locate many missing Arctic expeditions completely. Lena explains, shifting ice sheets constantly bury and relocate evidence, transforming geography faster than mapping systems update. Mateo emphasizes cold environments preserve remains, but also conceal them beneath accumulating layers of frozen sediment. Rowan reflects that technological advancement reduces risk, but never eliminates environmental indifference. The Arctic does not acknowledge human intention, preparation, or determination. It simply exists, vast and unresponsive. When explorers disappear here, they are not defeated. They are absorbed into a system that does not record loss. Evidence waits patiently beneath melting ice, emerging decades or centuries after events occurred. Each discovery answers questions while raising deeper uncertainties about those never recovered. Silence becomes the only permanent witness. Human ambition drives exploration, but ambition assumes the environment recognizes effort, struggle, and perseverance as meaningful forces. The Arctic contradicts that assumption completely. Here, survival depends not only on strength but on maintaining psychological stability within overwhelming sensory emptiness. Every expedition that vanished left warnings written in frost-cracked ink and scattered footprints disappearing into white horizons. These stories reveal the fragile boundary between endurance and disintegration under extreme isolation. Ask yourself again how long absolute silence would remain bearable before your thoughts began generating their own noise. Ask whether isolation would sharpen perception or slowly dismantle it. The ice records everything, but explains nothing. Beneath its surface lie histories still waiting to emerge with each season of melting. If these true disappearances changed how you view exploration, you are already listening more carefully than most. Subscribe to Mr. Whisper's Official for investigations into real environments where nature rewrites human limits. Turn on notifications because some stories surface only when conditions allow evidence to return briefly. Respect silence because it may contain more than absence. The Arctic does not forget, it preserves. Preservation is not mercy. Somewhere beneath shifting permafrost lie camps never discovered, journals never opened, and footsteps frozen mid-journey. Satellite maps show blank expanses, yet those blank spaces contain entire human stories compressed beneath ice. The frozen tundra appears motionless, but transformation occurs constantly beneath the surface. One day, melting layers may reveal what finally happened to those who vanished. Until then, the ice keeps its silence intact. Silence that stretches across centuries without interruption. Silence that swallows sound before it fully exists. Silence that waits patiently for the next expedition to listen to closely. This was Beneath the Ice. And some places do not just bury the past, they preserve its final moment forever.